That's real funk, son.
Hey, what's happening? Once again, it's been a long time since I've came at y'all like this. You are tuned in to the Sanctifunky times, where times truly get sanctifunky. I am your boy, Mr. Sanctifunky, the Entertainer, and I am live at the Funny Farm. Y'all see my posts a lot of times where I talk about the Funny Farm. Yes, I am actually at work right now, so as you see, I don't work too hard if I got time to come at you with some video blogs. So that explains, usually I try to be a little more GQ on you right now, but you don't really have to get dressed up to come tend to the interesting people, we're going to put it that way. So once again, like I said, it's been a long time since I came at you like this. God has been blessed and just had got real busy. God was just elevating the ministry by leaps and bounds. And then I took a little time off to just chill, relax, and, get closer to God and just level out. So, thank God for everything that He has done, is doing, and is about to do. I'm just giving God praise, for truly He is worthy. I just love God. He is so good. I'm gonna get right on into it. A lot of times when I do these blogs, I crack a few jokes or whatnot, but this one is actually a little serious. What I want to talk to you about tonight. Today is Monday, yeah, so yesterday I went to the gas station and I saw a young man outside the gas station. He was at the oldest 9 or 10 years old. He was somewhere between 7 and 9 years old. And he was out there and it was cold, it was raining, he was out there and he was asking for money. Now, a lot of people ain't gonna turn down a little kid. So, he was asking people for $1, and they were giving it to him. He was saying he needed the money because he was locked out the house. So when I walked out the gas station, he walked up to me, and he was like, "Excuse me, sir." And I told him, I said, "Yeah, I heard your story." I said, "You locked out the house?" He said, "Yes, sir." So I was honest. I said, "Is $1 really gonna help you?" I said, "What, you trying to raise money for a locksmith or something like that?" I said, "Do you need a ride somewhere to get to some family members or whatnot?" He was saying he was saying that the reason he got locked out, he said he had went to church that morning and he forgot his key and his parents were gone somewhere, so he was locked out the house. So he said he needed money for something to eat until he could get back in the house. So I said, "Okay, no problem." I said, it was a KFC right next door to the gas station. So I said, "I tell you what," I said, "Little man, come on and I'll take you over here and I'll get you something to eat." He looked at me then and then he said, "I don't go anywhere with strangers." So now I'm realizing, this thing is kind of interesting. So I said, "So you don't go anywhere with strangers, but you out here asking strangers for money?" So I got a little frustrated with him. I felt real bad about what he was doing. So I looked at him, I said, "So you already got hustle." I said, "You starting off real early. Already you got a game, right?" Because, a lot of folks ain't going to turn down a little child. So, he was out there just getting dollar after dollar after dollar. Now, you could look at him again and you could tell he wasn't homeless. You could tell that he wasn't just in dire straits. And then there was another person who lives in that neighborhood was saying, "Oh, he does this all the time. He stand out here all the time and ask for money." So I look at him, I said, "Man, already you starting the game." So he hung his head down and he began to cry. So then, this young lady looked at me who was at the gas station and she said, "Oh, don't bother him. You about to make him cry." And my response was this. I said, "Well, I'm about to cry." I said, "Because I'm a black man. And this young up-and-coming black man is already learning the hustle. He already learning the game. He already learning how to get over on people." Now, when we were younger, we had little side hustles too. We tried to get our money. You know, we would try to clean windows. You know, we would try to cut grass, do things like this. But this young brother wasn't trying to work for it. He was already out here trying to gain people. And that really bothered me to no end. I mean, and it wasn't so much that it made me mad, but it really hurt to see a young black child already trying to play a game, already trying to get over. And this just lets you know that we are in a whole lot of trouble. It lets you know that we really in bad shape. You know, some of you know that, you know, God has blessed me with the vision of a Christian fraternity. You know, shouts out to the brothers of Beta Pi Alpha Christian Service Fraternity Incorporated. And this is what we're all about. You know, if you notice, I hadn't been doing as many shows as I used to do. You know, I constantly stayed on schedule. I constantly had a crazy schedule of doing so many different shows, but I've been trying to take a step back from that, and in part it's because obviously brothers are needed in the community. Young men just don't know how to stand up and be young men. They don't have a clue. They don't have anybody teaching them. You know, because my first thought is, you know, where are your parents? Where are your parents? It seemed like, you know, if I were a parent, I would have been gotten nervous about the fact that I hadn't heard from a child. So even if his thing was true, that he was actually locked out, it seemed like they would have been trying to find him or whatever. But more than likely, you know, somebody even brought up a point that the parents might be the ones putting them up to it. They might be out there saying, go out there and do this hustle. And like, again, as a black man, you know, I'm not an old person. You know I act like it a lot of times, but I'm not an old individual. I'm 30 years old, and it pains me as a 30-year-old black man to see this going on already. And it just lets you know that we got a lot of work to do in the community. You know, it's so easy to get up on stage and dance and crack jokes, sing, and do all this kind of stuff. But this lets you know that we really got to get out there in the community and help these young men. I wasn't trying to make them cry, you know, and I know folk were looking at me then like I was the bad guy, you know, like I was the villain that made the little boy cry. And yeah, I could have easily gave him $1. I could have gave him a few and not asked him any questions about it. But my thing is, the way I feel is to have given him money at that time, I would have been doing him more harm than good. I would have been doing him an injustice, because the more money he raked up as time go on, the more he would have just stayed there. He would have stayed in that mindset, and he would have grew up with this same mindset of, you know, I don't have to go to work. I don't have to try to work for what I want. I can just stand out here and ask for handouts. Again, nice looking young boy, so wasn't nobody gonna turn him down. And he was just getting dollar after dollar after dollar. But see, my thing is, when he grows up and he grows out of that cute little boy phase, is he going to be ready for the world? Because ain't nobody going to think you cute all your life. And you're going to be out there, and then, you know, those dollars then are going to start coming far and few in between. And then what do you have? So my thing is, we need to teach these young black men, teach them early. A lot of us at my age, when we were growing up, we had chores to make money. You know, a lot of us already had little hustles, lawn, you know, cutting grass, raking leaves, doing everything. Back in the day, our mama and big daddy, we had been outside of a store asking strangers for money, they would have whooped us. Now, I'm not telling anybody to whoop their children or not. You do that how you do it. You know, I'm from the old school where, you know, you smack the daylights out of a child, but I know we living in a new time now to where you get time out. But, you know, in looking at that phrase, it's time out for making it so easy for children. It's time out for just letting children do what they want to do. It's time out for teaching children how to be young hustlers. You know, it's time out for letting BET and MTV raise the children. We need to put some time into our children, especially these young kids. You know, a lot of times I hear people say so many times that there are no good men, especially good black men. But this is why, because we're not taking the time to raise them. And someone may say, well, if they ain't my child, I don't have to do anything. And I used to feel that way too. It ain't my child, I ain't got to worry about it. We got to worry about it when that child grows up and starts breaking and entering. Because again, once he can't rely on his, I'm a cute little boy, if he don't have any skills, then he gonna start trying to find another hustle. He gonna always look for that thing for the ease and money. So as older black men, we need to start at that's the age, 7, 8, 9 years old. That's when we really need to start instilling in them what being a man is all about. I'm not trying to overkill it. Yeah, I know he's a child. I know they're children, and children are going to be children. But that's when you start training them. That's why the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's older, he will not depart from it. And and that goes so much further than just spirituality. Yes, we know that you're supposed to train up a child in the way he should go, as far as knowing who his Redeemer is, knowing who Jesus is, knowing who God is. But we need to take that time to teach them skills. Teach them to read a book. Sometimes put the iPod down. Sometimes put the PlayStation or the Xbox down. We need to teach them to read books. Learn their history. Learn what they're teaching in school, so that they can grow up and develop a strong work ethic. James Brown sung a song years ago, said, I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Open up the door and I'll get it myself. I'm going to take that even a step further. Sometimes, because, again, I know we have a black man in the White House, and I know black people have grown by leaps and bounds, but still, we live in a world where you are judged by the color of your skin. Sad to say, Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream hadn't became a reality as of yet. We still waiting on that day. So, sometimes ain't no doors going to be open for you. Nobody's going to open up the door and let you get in. Sometimes you're going to have to knock the door down yourself in order to get what you want. So we need to build that strong work ethic. We need to do our part to instill that work ethic in young men, so that they can have the tools, the strength, the might to knock down the doors of oppression, to knock down the doors of instability, to knock down the doors of generational curses. And it starts at that age. So, my thing is, I know some people may look at that, you could have gave that little boy $1. But again, how would that dollar have helped him? And I'm not just talking about helping him get into the house, but with that dollar, it's better he deal without $1 now. Think about what I said. Maybe go, begin to turn his life around now and begin to work for what he wants, so he can make dollars on top of dollars on top of dollars, and not just make it, but earn it. See, him standing out there asking for it, he didn't earn it. That's wanting somebody to feel sorry for you. We live in a world that young black men, young black women, nobody feels sorry for us. The way they see it, all we do is get food stamps. All we do is get welfare. All we do is get handouts. And we know that that's not the case. But never mind what we know, this is how people see it. And we have got to stop this hustler cycle. If we got a hustler spirit, we need to hustle in our work, hustle in our knowledge, hustle in our strength, so that we can make honest, legit livings. Not just out there begging, not out there asking for handouts. So again, those of you who are looking, whether you have children or not, let's get out there and help these young men. Let's help these young women. I don't care what they say. It's not a lost cause. Black children are not a lost cause. But what we have to do is we have to take that. We have to see that it's a greater cause, and it's up to us. As opposed to sitting up there complaining about, well, their parents ain't around, their parents need to be doing this. If the parents ain't, then we need to be instilling in that child. And all the while, maybe hopefully instilling in the parents, if they allow us to. The parents might not know any better. Their parents might have raised them to hustle, And they're now raising their children to hustle. But we have got to stop this generational curse of laziness among Black America so that we can truly rise up and be what God would have us to be. The mighty man of valor. Those that worker in the vineyard. That mighty man that he has called us to be. So, that's my time. Thank you so much for listening. Again, I know this wasn't a funny thing or whatever. You know, I can't be stupid all the time. Well, I can, and I do sometimes. But sometimes there are situations that aren't funny. And to me, that young man out there begging for handouts, that wasn't funny. It caused me hurt. But it caused me hurt not to where I'm just going to sit there and say, oh, it's over with and forgot about it. It caused me the type of hurt to realize that I've got to channel this energy in reaching this young generation. And I hope you're willing to go out here and reach it with me. Let's go out here, reclaim our children, reclaim our little boys, reclaim our little girls, reclaim our communities. And when we reclaim it, we don't just hold it, but we give it back to God. He sent us to go get it. If we go out there and go get it, He'll cleanse, He'll purify, He'll exalt, He'll correct. All we got to do is get it and give it to Him. He'll take it from there. God bless you. Stay sanctified.
That's real funk, son.